And this has been my kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen of Cooking with SonicBlu. This is not a weapon, it is a utensil. It is going to be used to stir up our our steak fajitas. And we got some cut up steaks here, got some onion. Don't have bell peppers because I can't stand peppers. But you can use peppers. It is basically recommended for this recipe. But if you don't like peppers like I do, like I don't like peppers, then you can omit them and you can substitute them with some roasted tomato, which is going to be really good. And I'm going to show you how to do that too. So first things first, let's turn on our burner. There we go. And we are going to, with our hands, grab this raw meat.
And then you eat it.
If you're crazy or pregnant.
I've seen people eat it. It's really gross.
Yeah, it is, and it's not very healthy.
No, it isn't at all.
Because you can develop E. coli.
Not to mention, I don't think you can actually properly digest raw foods like that either.
I don't think you can. I don't think you want to.
That too, yeah.
So, just kind of toss that stuff in there, let it kind of cook up a little bit. And then what we're going to do first and foremost is cook this up till it's nice and browned and evenly cooked. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drain off the meats, and then we're going to place them back on the stove. We're going to use the oil, and we're going to use just a dollop of oil. And what that does is it helps bring the steak to a crispy kind of texture. Because as you know, cooking with oil makes your food cook hotter than without. So that's why we cook with oil.
Just sort of sear it, huh?
Well, not necessarily sear it.
Well, I said sorta, you know.
We basically just use the oil to bring the texture of the meat to a crispiness, sort of like a very, very, very sizzling hot texture. And that's what we want out of our fajitas. It has to be sizzling, it has to be hot, it has to be really delicious. Now to this, when we get to that point, we're going to also add our chopped onion. And the onion can be chopped any way you want to. Long pieces, short pieces, diced, however you want. I prefer the long pieces mainly because, you know, you can taste them better when you mix everything together.
Probably more crunchy too, huh?
Not really, because you're cooking them and raw onions are crunchier than cooked onions. And you're going to cook your onions so it's going to be very tender. But what you're looking for is just the size. You know, the size when you mix that with the size of the meat you're going with, it kind of matches everything up.
Oh, okay.
So, and we're also going to add what little lime we got left. But this
I've
is
been
just
using
enough.
that. I've been using that in my soda.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And this is just enough to add to this recipe. So we'll probably be using the rest of this lime. But you can use actual real limes, or you can use lime juice. And since we only have lime juice, this is what we got.
Yeah, it's pretty much close enough.
And if you don't have lime, you can always use lemon juice. And we got lemon juice in case we run out of lime. So we can have lemon-lime steak fajitas.
I prefer the lime, though, in all honesty.
I do too. So, once your steak is starting to sizzle, give it a little stir with the spoon. And a wooden spoon is preferred for this sort of procedure. And as you notice, your steak is going to be about an inch, a half an inch to an inch, maybe even 2 inches long if you want to. There's no real rule or regulation on how big your pieces of steak need to be. But as long as they're long enough to enjoy with those onions there, and as long as all those pieces are cooked fully before we take to the next step. Now, to this, we are also going to add fajita seasoning.
We got this. We got this at the import section.
Now, those of you that don't know if you can find fajita seasoning like this, you can make your own fajita seasoning out of dehydrated garlic, dehydrated onion, salt, pepper, a little seasoning salt, and mix it all together with some chili powder, and you got fajita seasoning.
This stuff's just so good, though.
Yeah, this one's really good. Okay, we are about halfway done in the cooking process of our steak. It's starting to smell really good. And what we want to do is, after we get all of this drained of all of its juices and any water that builds up or anything like that, then we bring it back over here nice and clean, and that way all of the flavors will then be able to absorb into our clean steak. I'm talking about our seasoning, the lime,
Of course, the lime.
the oil, which
The oil, too.
what we're going to do first is we're going to drain this off, bring it back to the stove, then we're going to add some oil, just a little smidgen of it, just enough to give it a nice coating as it cooks, and the oil will help your steaks reach a higher temperature than what it can be in the skillet alone. Then, once all that oil is absorbed into the steaks and you got it nice and crispy, we're going to add our lime, and we're going to just pour this stuff right in, mix it in as we squirt it all the rest of the stuff in there, because there's not much left. I mean, there's only just like yay much. So yeah, we should have put that on the list too, but I didn't notice. And then after all of that is done, we're going to combine all of this together with some fajita seasoning. And like I said, basically you can make your own fajita seasoning just by taking about equal portions of dehydrated onion, dehydrated garlic, salt, pepper, and chili powder. Mix all that together and you pretty much have fajita seasoning. So it's all equal portions. You can use as many portions as you want, maybe a tablespoon of each ingredient or a teaspoon, however you feel you're going to need. But everything about fajita seasoning is nice and even mixed together, so you get a good array of different flavors of seasoning to season your steak. And we are almost done cooking this to perfection. Now you'll notice that you're not quite done until all of your meats, all of your pieces are browned through and through. You don't want to see any red, you don't want to see any pink, even though some people like rare steak, other people like medium rare steak. I like mine very well done, and there's only one way to eat it in a fajita, and that's well done. When you find a recipe you really like it, you'll be surprised how many times that you can prepare it.
Isn't that the truth?
And enjoy it every single time as if you prepared it for the first time. And that's what we call passion. If you put a lot of passion into your cooking, then something that you really enjoy eating will taste even better knowing that you love preparing it. And the steak fajitas are no exception to that rule, because I love preparing steak fajitas just as much as I love eating them. And you will see just how much passion goes into making a dish like this that everybody will just enjoy, and will add some more notches to how passionate you can be about cooking food like this. Now, as you can see, while we're cooking our steaks, you can see a lot of moisture is built up in there. So all of that has got to go. I mean, the drier your steaks come back to the stove, the better, so that way it absorbs and takes in a lot of that seasoning and a lot of the flavoring that we're going to be putting back in. So you definitely want this dry.
Dry dogs.
Because the oil will add some extra moisture back into it, and your lime juice will add extra moisture into it, and it'll give it a nice acidic flavor that really goes good with Mexican cooking.
Not to mention acidity is very good for you.
It is, yes it is. All right, looks like we are getting about to the nitty-gritty, just a little bit more, because I see a little tiny bit of pink, not much, but just a little bit. We're just going to give this a little shake. Now, cooking steak fajitas, you're going to need to learn how to be very acrobatic in cooking steak fajitas, because we're going to be flipping a lot of this stuff. And you got to be very, very coordinated with your food, so that way it doesn't jump out of your skillet. So, you'll see what I mean when I get to that point. But we're not at that point just yet. We're still in the cooking phase, and we're making sure that every piece is cooked to perfection. And I don't see any pink in there. Well, just a little teeny tiny bit off of this piece here, but it won't be long before that one is fully cooked too. So we'll just give it a final shake here. Stir. Make sure no other pieces of pink are showing. I don't see any. Good. All right. Looks like it all cooked in very well. Equally browned. All right, let's take this over to the sink and drain it. Drain, drain, drain our steaks right into the drain. Don't lose any pieces. Of course, you could use a strainer, but I'm too lazy. And what would also help too is pushing all the steak pieces back so that all the moisture runs down to the bottom of your skillet here like this. It's okay to have a little bit of moisture in there, but make it as dry as possible. And then with your spoon, just kind of knock all of that out of there.
And don't do this with a metal spoon either in Teflon.
No. That's why I say wooden spoon is preferred.
Oh yeah.
Now, like I said, it's okay to have a little bit of moisture in there. You don't have to have it 100% dry as a desert night, but that's about good enough. Because with the least amount of moisture there, that's going to absorb right back in and just evaporate the rest of the excess right out of there, because we are going to now turn the fire up. We need to turn the fire up
Make it hot
and
and
make it
passionate,
as hot
you know?
and passionate as possible. That's right. Not to the point where it clicks, but yeah, just one notch below that. Okay, first things first. I'm going to take a little bit of our oil and just give it a little dollop like so. Just enough to coat, maybe a little more than that.
I'm staying back. I'm the one who
that's
always
good.
gets hit with this stuff.
All right, now, what we want to do is first coat our pieces. Now, this is a lot of steak to be flipping too, so we're going to be flipping very gently, because you always want to gauge how much food you have in your skillet versus how strong your flips are going to be. As you really need to combine this stuff really well, and flipping it is the best way
Yeah, flipping.
to do so.
Flip yo top yo.
Kind of like this. Give it a good coating.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's very, very precise on how you do that.
That's a well-honed skill you have to make.
Yes, it is. Now, that's very well coated. That's exactly what we want there. Nice big dollop, just enough to coat your steaks. That's all you really need. And this will help bring your steaks to a nice crispiness. Because it has to be crispy, it has to be very, very well done. It has to be very sizzling hot in order to be called a fajita. So we're going to let this cook for a bit, and let's, because I mean, if you constantly stir it, then it's going to take longer to crispen up. If you leave it sitting there over a hot flame for a while, then it'll start crisping up on one side, then you can stir it and in hopes to flip everything around. And that's why we flip with our pan, because it's easier to do that than with a spoon than have to turn each piece individually. So you use friction to, against velocity, to flip your food, and that way you'll evenly be able to get a good even crispiness through and through. Just going to take a little. All right, it's starting to get crispy, as you can see right here, and that's what I was kind of scooting a few pieces out of the way to see if I got that effect or not, but it looks like it. So, now, what we're going to do is going to start giving this a little vigorous stirring, and you notice that some of your pieces have already started to crispen up just the way we need it, so we're going to do a little flipping here. Get some of the pieces that are, do this a lot too. Now let it sit. And it's a very interesting process. You gotta flip it, then let it sit. Flip it, then let it sit. Flip it, then let it sit. Do this again and again until you get an even crispiness through and through. And then after that point, we add our onions. And some of the oil that's coated in our meats are gonna help cook those onions up to perfection. And then from there, we're gonna add our lime, and then our seasoning, and then stir everything together. And then by the time you're ready for your vegetables, which is either your peppers or in our case roasted tomato, which we're probably going to cook very, very last, because tomatoes don't take very much time to roast. But we're going to do the best that we can in roasting them on our skillet here. And tomatoes will not take very long to roast. So now you can see crispiness coming up. So we're going to do this again. Hold yourself. As you can see, using friction to flip your meats, and look how many pieces flip just by doing that technique. Just a flick of the wrist, a little tiny one, nothing too heavy. Just make sure that you have a good control over your food as you flip it like that. Doesn't have to be 100% acrobatic. You don't have to flip it 10 feet in the air to impress anybody. All you want to do is just make sure that your meats are going to evenly crispen up. Give it another good flip. Another good shake. Let it cook. We keep repeating the process a little bit, like maybe a couple more times until we start noticing that your entire steaks are going to be nice and crispy and sizzling. And then we add the rest of our ingredients. We keep on cooking it, stirring it, flipping it, and it all comes together. And this is the perfect way to make steak fajitas. Flipping it again.
Whoa!
Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, now we're starting to see a lot more crispiness. Now, since we're at this point, now let's get out our onion.
Is it safe to pull a piece out?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull one out for Mom just so she has some protein.
Oh, okay. We're gonna add our onion.
Holy shoot!
Okay. Add our onion there.
Ah, it's perfect. It's so large, I'll be able to pull it out then.
Yep. That's what you did last time.
Oh yeah. My memory's so bad.
Okay, we're gonna give this a good stir, and if you need to add a little extra oil, you can do so. But now that you got extra ingredients in here, it's going to be a little more precise to flip because
grab it
you got
that.
a lot more ingredients to flip.
Isn't that the truth?
And a lot more lightweight ingredients. These onion pieces are very lightweight, so they're going to go all over the place if you're doing what you're doing. And chefs do know how to make mistakes in the kitchen. I'm not 100% perfectly accurate, but let's give it a try here anyway. If you're not too confident about flipping your food, that's okay.
Woo! It's hot.
Yeah, that's why I say quickly.
I know.
But if you're not going to be that much of an expert on flipping your food, it's okay. You can still stir it, but you're going to be here a long time stirring.
Isn't that the truth?
So if you have the ability to flip or learn how to flip,
it's a very valuable tool.
It is.
Technique.
Because some restaurants actually require their chefs to know how to flip their foods.
It makes it faster. I mean, of course, you know.
Makes it more even too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just flip it here. We want that fire to be on hot, 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 hot.
Very hot, hot, hot.
Buster Boy Extra. I was playing that song last night. Okay, we're going to take the rest of our lime juice.
Ooh, look at that sizzle.
Yep. Now, the hotter your food is, the hotter that's going to sizzle when you add that lime. That's all the lime we can add.
Do I need to get lemon out, or?
Don't think we do, but let me just do a little.
Oh, there's lemon juice.
Yeah, we got lemon juice in there, so let me give it a good flip and get this kind of coated in, and I'll be able to determine if we need more lemon. But we really could use a lot more lime. I should have put that down on the list.
Well, you don't know until you pretty much pick it up, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Now, as you notice, your onion is starting to become a lot more tender by being cooked in that oil, because some of the oil from the meats are now transferring over to the onion and making sure that they cook really nice and tender. Also very delicious.
Oh yeah.
Now is the time where you'd be adding your bell peppers, but since we're not working with bell peppers,
I can live with that
tomato.
because I do not like peppers. Nobody likes peppers except for Dad.
I can't even stand being around the smell of peppers.
I don't mind the smell. I just can't stand the texture and the taste.
Every time they bring peppers home and I pull that bag out of the shopping bag, they have a little bag of peppers inside. I like hold my nose and hold it away like I was holding a dirty diaper. Okay, now basically what we're going to be doing with the tomatoes is we're going to be cutting off the top of that. We removed the core and we started to cut strips of the tomato. And then from here, what we're going to, you can also, let's just keep cutting into slices, big slices, thick slices. The thicker, the better. So that way it ensures that your tomatoes won't shrivel up in the heat. Because that's what's going to happen when you roast a tomato. It's going to start shriveling.
Good point.
If you got small pieces. I'm just going to take the bottom part of that core off. And that'll be perfect. Okay, set that aside, and now just cut your tomato into strips like so. Everything's cut into strips when you do fajitas. Otherwise, if you're doing bell peppers, you would remove the innards and the seeds so that you're left with the outer skin and some of the meat that's inside, and you would just cut it like in strips, just like this. Alright,
You know, the only time I can actually have peppers is whenever it's on a frozen pizza because you just don't taste it too much. I don't mind it then too much.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only time I can. Oh, that'll add a nice flavor to it.
This will be a nice tomatoey, roasty flavor. Nice and thick pieces so your tomato won't shrivel up too much in the high heat. And we're just going to give this a stir. Very carefully stirring. Until your tomatoes are lightly roasted. And lightly because if you roast it too much, your tomatoes will shrivel and become part of the cuisine. You don't want that. You want to be able to taste the tomato and experience the texture of the tomato, not having it smush into your meal. Okay. Give it a few flips to get it to stir correctly and bring the tomato down to where the hottest part is on the skillet. And doing that a bit evens it out. Now we're ready for our seasoning. So we're going to give it a generous portion of the seasoning. Just add it to taste, but give a lot of it too, because it really gives your food a lot of flavor. And then once you got the top of it covered with your seasoning, just give it a little gentle stir and fold to coat all of your ingredients as well as you can with that seasoning. And see, even just stirring food like this, I knocked a piece out. And then, as you can see, all of your seasoning are evenly combined. You don't have to flip it. Just give it a nice, gentle, easy folding, and your seasoning will just coat right along the way, using the oil and some of your moisture from your lime juice and the tomato juice to hold all of that flavor and seasoning to help coat it evenly.
Do we need any lemon, you think?
We might need some lemon.
I'll get it.
Might
You
as
know.
well.
It'll make it better. Oh, we're getting low on lemon too.
Yep,
That
add to the
surprises
list.
me.
Okay. Let's go ahead and add some lemon to this. And you can hear the sizzling. And this is the true nature of a good fajita, is when you hear that sizzle. And you want a lot of sizzling action there. And adding juices like your lemon or your lime gives it a natural flavor. So you're naturally cooking your fajitas. Okay, we are almost done. And look, your tomatoes are nice and cooked up. Not exactly roasted, but you can't really roast tomatoes with meats and onions in there. It takes like direct flame almost to roast a tomato. But this is good enough to be called done. We're going to put our lime juice, or lemon juice away rather, and we're going to put our seasoning away.
Okay. Steak.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do while we're getting the tortillas ready is we're going to turn our flame down. And in a microwave, we have our tortillas. Now, these tortillas we've kept in the freezer, and they do keep well in the freezer, especially Azteca ones, but I don't like buying Azteca mainly because they're not really authentically made, as you can see. Where are the burns? I mean, well, you got a little bit of burn here, here, and here, but look at this. I mean, it's plain, it's white, it's very floury, and it's not very good, you know, make when you compare them to the likes of, say, Mission. Mission is really good because they're authentically made by hand.
Now let's keep going.
Give it a final flip. Turn off the heat. Let that kind of simmer in there. And check our tortillas. Make sure that they're nice and steamy. Oh yeah, they're nice and warm. Okay, let's get some plates.
Plates. Okay.
Okay. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our tortilla. We're going to take a spoonful of these ingredients. We're going to line up the ingredients with some good tortilla, some good fajita mix. And if you want to, you can add cheese, but it's not really required for a fajita. But what Mexican food is complete without cheese?
What food is complete without it? Period. Okay, I know.
Out of my fajita. I know you're anxious to become a part of it, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, really.
Okay, give yourself as much cheese as you want to. And I also like to put sour cream in mine, so let me get a spoon.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Give it a stir to combine all the ingredients again, because sour cream likes to separate when it sits. So you just give it a stir, and it also smooths it out so it's not too compacted. And a little dollop of sour cream there for an extra added measure. Break out the Ortega sauce. And just a little sliver of that stuff there. And now to wrap a fajita, it's not like that of a burrito. I mean, you can do it like a burrito, but it's all just nothing more than just a flip over that way, a flip over that way, fold it over, and there's your fajita. Or you can make enchiladas the same way. There's no real way to wrap a fajita. You could wrap it out like a burrito if you really wanted to. So once again, get out some stuff like that, and get your cheese. We're down to the bottom of the bag anyway on that. That's why I broke out the extra bag. Cheese there, more Ortega sauce here. Fold it. There you go. Make it for however many you think you can eat. Now you can usually eat 4 of these guys, because I'm just that kind of hungry dude. Get a tomato in that one. Put some tomato in there. There we go. Cheese. Sauce. And that's all you really need for a fajita. It doesn't really require too many ingredients. You can have anything you want to on the side of it. You can use Mexican rice, you can have refried beans, and usually those are served on the side, not really in the fajita itself. All you're really looking for is the vegetables and the meats to go into your fajita. And you know what I mean about the roasted tomato, it shrivels up like real easily. So you definitely want to cook those dead last, and as least time as possible, just to get them nice and roasted up. More cheese. And I forgot to add sour cream on the other one, didn't I?
Last 2.
Yeah, I did. I forgot. I'll have to open them back up and add the sour cream to them. Okay. Some sour cream in these guys, because that's, you can also use guacamole too, that's always good. And you can always put avocado in these or whatever you want, but fajitas are usually pretty simple. Doesn't require too much. It's like a carne asada. You don't really put lettuce or anything like that in there because all your vegetables are cooked. You can't really cook lettuce. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't turn out the way traditional fajitas would turn out. Let me pull that back up, flip it back over, and there you go. There's your fajitas. Now, I bet you're wondering, they might look good, they might cook good, you might put a lot of passion into it, but how did they come out? How did they taste? Well, if I can withstand the distaste that I have for Azteca tortillas, I'll let you know. Okay, that's the tortilla part. Now that is a good fajita. With this, I'm getting a whole mix of different flavors. I'm getting the taste of the steak, the acid of the lime and lemon juice, and the tenderness and flavor of the onion. So, if you follow this recipe at home, consider yourself very well fed, because these are also filling. They're also so delicious that you cannot resist having another one. And even when you're full, you go, I want another one, but I can't. However it may be, we hope that you do enjoy this recipe. And you can download this recipe too on our website at www.opopetshow.org. Go to the archives page and you'll find it under the list of recipes, along with so many other recipes you can treat yourself to just by taking a gander and see what suits your fancy. So this is SonicBlu for Cooking with SonicBlu, and hopes that all of your meals turn out just like this. And just remember, if you're not cooking good, you're not eating good. And don't forget to cook with passion. And I just tossed one out of there. Get back in there. This isn't a weapon. This is a utensil for making... And holy cow, this is a weapon. If you ever go into a kitchen or a restaurant and you see one of these on the wall, run. Because they're going to use it on you. Bunch of savages. It's the biggest spoon I've ever seen. Look at that. I bet you go to Hawaii and you'll find this all over the place and crossed like this on the wall.
With a fork, yep.
Yeah, with a fork coming straight up, you know. Can you imagine spoon feeding cough syrup to somebody who in your family is sick? It's like, take your medicine! Can you imagine, like, if your mother ever slapped you with a wooden spoon, how this would feel going across your hide?
I'd kill ya. I could kill ya.
What did I say about running around to the house? Man, this will alone make your mother into a samurai warrior. Right? Yeah, there are so many uses for a giant spoon. This is so cool. You know what? There has to be a challenge, like a soup eating challenge. Like you see if you can eat soup in a spoon like this.
There's no way you could.
Well, you could, but I mean, you'd have to like.
No, it would like go all over your face, you know.
Yeah, but you'd have to carefully do it, like slowly, you know, like that. But it could be done. It could be done. The only problem is I wouldn't do it with this spoon because it's very old and very dusty,
And it's
you never
been used
know where
to
it's
dig.
been. And yeah, I could use it.
No,
to
I've
dig.
used it to dig.
You could use it to dig, you know, dig yourself a garden, you know, or, you know, dig a hole to bury somebody in, you know. Or, you know, if your pet dies, you know, just kind of dig a little grave with it. And then you can take it back into the house, wash it off, and then use it with your soup. It has multiple purposes. I mean, what's not to love about a spoon like this? But, in all actuality, you don't really need a spoon this big to enjoy steak fajitas. So, there you have steak fajitas. It's very easy to enjoy, but very difficult to speak when you have a mouthful. Always best to wait until you digest your food before you speak, but sometimes you can't resist. Sometimes when you bite into something this good, you just have to shout out about it. My compliments to the chef!